You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me on socials at SamLittle44 and the podcast at Maple Footy Pod. And now there's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast. And yeah, big week for Canadian soccer. Quite big. So we have a lot of things to cover in the Maple Start, I would say. But first, quickly, just going to lay out how the next few episodes are going to look because, of course, international break means Canada are back playing. And in case you missed it, Canada are in fact playing in the CONCACAF Nations League, which could see them potentially get a trophy. When's the final? Sunday? I think Sunday. March 23rd, I believe, is the final. Of course, Canada has to beat Mexico, which is no small task. But yes, we're all, of course, excited because Canada has the chance and a real possibility of winning said trophy. Like I said, not brushing past Mexico at all. They are a good team and will be a hell of a game. So definitely watch that on Thursday, which brings me to how we're going to be covering that. So Thursday night is the game at 10:30 at night. At least where I live. Oh, man. I feel like an old person going like, I can't do it. So, yes, the episode for that, like, recap will go up either the Friday or the Saturday. And then, like, the after, of course. And then I believe there is a third place game and a final. I believe. I will have to fact check that. But I do believe that regardless of if Canada wins or loses against Mexico, they will be playing two games. So regardless if they win or lose against Mexico, I will be covering two games. Once again, going off the assumption of that I 99% believe that they do play two games. The recap for either the third place game or the final, whichever one, will go up the day or two after. If it is the final, I'll probably need some time just to go, holy shit. And then, of course, if we lose, I'll probably need time to cry. But regardless, yes, there will be recaps for both games is the long point that I'm making. And then on Thursday, this Thursday, the day of the final, actually, before said final, I will be dropping another interview with another member of Forge, one of the newest recruits, Ben Payton. We had a great chat, former Ross County, played for the Blackburn Rovers Academy as well. Great conversation, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. Very excited about that one. I think it was a great interview. A lot of fun. So yeah, with all that out the way, so that is kind of just the next week-ish laid out for Maple Footy. Just because, like I said, there's no, of course, Prem games and nothing like that. So we gotta lay it out, right? And we'll get into the Maple Start now. So speaking of Canada, let's talk about the Canada squad just a little bit. I was debating doing an episode targeted to this, but then I was like, no, it's fine. I'll just give some thoughts in the Maple Start. So we're just going to go through alphabetical order. Ali Ahmed, Tajon Buchanan, Moise Bombito, Chouanier, Derek Cornelius, Maxime Crepeau, Jonathan David, Promise David, Alphonso Davies, that's not going to get confusing for commentators, I'm sure, Stefan Eustachio, Daniel Jebison, Alistair Johnston, Jamie Knight-Labelle, Ishmael Kone, Kyle Larin, Richie Larea, who just pulled out, by the way, they replaced him with Bassong, Tom McGill, Tani Oluwaseyi, Jonathan Osorio, Jacob Schaffelberg, Nico Seguir, Dane St. Clair, and Joel Waterman. So obviously some big absentees, in my opinion. No Junior Hoylett, no Kamal Miller, no Nathan Saliba. Samuel Piette has been injured for most of the season and doesn't really seem to figure into many of Marsh's plans. No Jaden Nelson, no Sam Adekubi. Interesting to see if injury played a part for those as well, not getting called up because both of them have started the season very well. And that's just some guys off the top of my head. Of course, then Tom McGill getting that third place spot over Pentemis and Sigorsi, who have both had very good starts to the season as well, especially Pentemis, who has been filling in for Maxime Crepeau. So it's very interesting to me. No Theo Bear as well, who kind of hurt. That one hurt my soul, as you know how much I like Theo Bear. What kind of intrigues me and worries me about the squad, it is a very good squad. Do not get me wrong. What kind of worries me is some of these guys are coming back from injury or just coming into season, so they're not fully in form. Like the MLS boys, Osorio, Tani Oluwaseyi, Ali Ahmed, even Chouanier, who's not in MLS but has been in the Grasshopper side for over the last few months. Obviously, those guys have still been playing well, but just not many games under the legs for the season heading into this. That concerns me just a little bit, but nothing that I'm like, oh my gosh, oh no. It's just kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, they could be a little bit rusty. What I am excited about is Promise David, Daniel Jebison. I think we all expected them to get the call here after having declared for Canada. I think they were pretty much outside of like the big guys that you expected to be called, like your Davies, Jonathan Davids, Kyle Lahrens. You kind of expected these guys to get called just because I think Marsh wants to see what they can do on a very big stage. But yeah, outside of that, I think Dane St. Clair will be our starting goalkeeper for this tournament. Maxime Crepeau did amazing for us during the Copa America, but at the moment, I do think that Dane St. Clair is just in better form. Crepeau has been injured for a little bit of the start of this season. Dane St. Clair, on the other hand, has just kept back-to-back clean sheets, has looked very good in net. Both of them are class goalkeepers, so what a headache to have. What also concerns me just a little bit is our midfield. Ishmael Kone has not been really playing consistently this season. Jonathan Osorio, as I've already mentioned, his season just started. And then Nico Seeger, who really is like the versatility guy at the moment. Of course, I think he has a big future with the national team. But, you know, we could be using him as a right back. We could be using him in the midfield. He's kind of a question mark. And Stefano Stacchio, whilst I do rate him extremely highly, he cannot do everything all by himself. So that's just a little bit of a concern for me. But I do still think this is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, national teams that I've seen potentially ever. I would say this definitely rivals the Copa America squad that we had. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of my little spiel about the national team choices and like a Spark Notes summary. But yeah, I mean, sucks, of course, that some guys are being left off. Even I didn't even mention Kyle Hybert, who's had an amazing start to the season with St. Louis. See, this maybe I should just do an episode. I keep on thinking of guys that I should talk about. Leave it. Jason Russell-Rowe, another one. Okay, now we're done. Yeah, no, I think it's a very good squad. I'm very hopeful looking at this. I'm very hopeful with Jesse Marsch, and I have high hopes against Mexico. As I've stated millions of times, Mexico are not easy, but I don't really think we're easy anymore either. So I think it could be a very interesting game. But let's kind of march on with our Maple start. Alphonso Davies is through to the next round of the Champions League. He will face Inter Milan, which would have been interesting if Tajon still played at Inter. Would have been pretty cool. But Davies, routine, 5-0 on aggregate over Bayer Leverkusen. Davies got the 5th goal of the tie, the 2nd goal of the second leg. And yeah, I mean, Bayern looks very good. Water is wet. Yes. Jonathan David's dream UCL run comes to an end, but he had an amazing run. The teams they scored against, both Madrids, Real and Atletico, Juventus, Liverpool, Borussia Dortmund, Juventus, insane run, I would say. Sorry, my phone just vibrated. Very unprofessional of me to not have it on Do Not Disturb. It is on Do Not Disturb now. And then in Ligue 1, we had Bayer versus Bombito, ended in a 1-1 draw. Bombito came off the bench. He's been struggling with a little bit of a knock, so hopefully nothing too serious. Theo Bair couldn't replicate getting his goal that he did last week. Would have been kind of cool if we had seen like Theo Bair and Moise Bombito, who would win that one, you know, like aerial challenge type thing. Just the things I think about. And then, of course, you know MLS is back, so we have to talk about the MLS. Vancouver Whitecaps in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Sorry, I keep on wanting to call it Champions League. Ali Ahmed registered technically no official assists on the night, but both goals had his fingerprints all over them, and he was immense that entire game. He was the best player, in my opinion, on the pitch. I thought he was unreal. He was so good. Vancouver, since we're talking about them in MLS, also won over Dallas. They, for the first time in their history, and the only team left right now that has won all 4 of the first games. So that's something definitely to be very ecstatic about if you are a Canadian soccer fan or a Vancouver Whitecaps fan. TFC had their home opener against Chicago Fire. I was there. Yes, we could do an entire retrospective on what is going wrong with TFC. So, in short, they have a lot of work to do. And and that's putting it lightly. They started out very strong in those first 10-15 minutes, but the game is 90, and Chicago Fire they just proved to be a bit too quality for TFC, and I didn't even really think Chicago was that great on the day, but yeah, it doesn't look good for TFC, and it leaves me wondering what the goal for this season really is. Is it just to not finish dead last? Maybe, like, genuinely, I kind of look, I'm like, I feel bad for the fans because I really don't know what the overall goal for this season is, honestly. Montreal drew against DC. They've had a hot and cold start. Not even hot, I'd say mild and cold start. They haven't looked great either, but I mean, at least they've looked better than TFC, if that's something to cheer about. But yeah, so really right now, Vancouver proving to be the best of the bunch for our Canadian teams. And then, yeah, Tani Oluwaseyi grabs 2 goals, his first 2 of the season. Isn't a win. They went up 3-0. And so when I said that Dane Sinclair had back-to-back clean sheets, this is where I'm wrong. He don't. Because when I checked the scoreline, he was on his way to back-to-back clean sheets. And then Minnesota conceded 3 in no time. Not really on him. I have watched the highlights. I wouldn't really say any goal was like, oh my gosh, Dane Sinclair error. But Tani Oluwaseyi on the bright side, 2 goals in that game, his first 2 of the season. That is 3 goal contributions in the first 4 games for him. 2 goals, 1 assist. So not bad. Good for him to be hitting when you're going into this big week coming up for Canada. And then finally, after last week when I had said Tajon Buchanan needs to play more, I guess Villarreal listened to me because he started against Real Madrid. He looked good. I watched once again just kind of comps of him. I couldn't watch the game. I was at the TFC game. And yeah, from what I had seen, he looked quite good. He looked very energetic. He looked very direct. Looked good going both ways as well. So that's always good. And the more playing time, the better, I would say. So, and especially to be trusted against Real Madrid, yeah, I think that's saying something to his quality and what the coach thinks he could have. So, yeah, I'm very happy with that. And it's good to get that in you before this big international break. But if you're here for the Prem recap, we're about to kick that off now. So thank you for the long Maple start. Like I said, big week in Canadian football. So yeah, we had to talk a little bit extra today. So if this is your first time listening to the podcast, how we do the Prem recap, we go match of the weekend, then biggest winners of the weekend, biggest underperformers, best performance, moment of the weekend, relegation zone, European places, and title race. Got it? Yes, you do. It's not that hard to follow, so I think you do got it. But yeah, let's go with match of the weekend to start this off. Since this was match week 29, do you think I can put in Villa and Liverpool back from February 19th into this one? Because, yeah, that was the best game of these ones. Yeah, as you can probably tell, as I've been kind of saying for the last couple of weeks, the games themselves have not really moved me a whole ton, just because, like I kind of alluded to and mentioned last week, it really does feel like teams are playing extremely conservatively right now because no one wants to give up anything. So that kind of makes for sometimes not the most entertaining of matches. And Villa and Liverpool was at least entertaining, but I have already covered it, so I'm not actually going to cover it again here. Sadly. So looking at then, if we're not doing Liverpool Villa, Nottingham Forest and Ipswich, I thought was quite the good game. Will fix your high scoring needs in this kind of duller time of the season. 4-2 was the final result. Ipswich still only have 1 win at home this season. Would you guess who it's against? If you guess Chelsea, you're correct. Yeah, the only one that they've won at home is against Chelsea at this moment in time. And yeah, I mean 4-2. You expect Nottingham Forest to probably win this one, I would say. Anthony Elanga gets I was about to say a hat trick, gets a brace. Morgan Gibbs-White packs in another assist. He's having a very good season. Jota Silva gets in on the fun. Ipswich at least made the end of the game a little bit maybe nervy-ish for Forest, but I don't really think so. They score in the 82nd minute to make it 3-1 in favor of Forest. And then if there was any nerves, they quickly dissipated as in the 87th, Jota Silva scores. And then Ipswich do get a consolation goal through George Hurst in the 93rd minute. Once again, really just kind of, it's your fix of those high-scoring games, if you will. So if you want like just a high-scoring, fun action, this was your game to watch this weekend. Check out the highlights, I would say. Another game that I would say was at least pretty back and forth was Manchester City and Brighton and Hove Albion. Omar Mamouche gets another goal. He has kind of just fit right into this City team, I would say. Erling Haaland gets another goal. And then it was really just a back and forth match. Haaland gets the first, then Brighton gets one, then City gets theirs, and then Brighton gets the second. And then from there, it's really just who's going to score. Evidently, no one scores again. But yeah, it was just back and forth. I mean, it kind of speaks to the season that City's having, where I'm kind of looking at this going, well, it's not the best, but it's not the worst. Like it could have been worse for City. Brighton having a very good season, I would say. And yeah, I mean, going to the Etihad is still not super easy. And for Brighton to come away with a point and really not back down at all throughout the game, going 1-0 down, then going 2-1 down, and still leaving with 1 point, I'd say that's a good result for Brighton. It was an entertaining game, I would say, as I feel like a good few City games have been this year, just because they're so unpredictable. You don't know what City's turning up on the day, whether it's going to be the City that is looking like the 4-time champs, or the City that's looking like before the financial takeover took place. So yeah, I would say those two games would be the two that I would say were really worth watching. I'm sorry. They really, like I said, none of these games really fully grabbed me. If you want just a high-ish scoring game, like a one-side thumping, Manchester United and Leicester is the one to go with. United winning 3-0 there. No surprise, really. Even though United have had a poor season, you still expect them to win here. Bruno Fernandes was the story of the day, 2 assists and a goal. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to just go watch a team get few put past them with no reply, then this is your one to kind of seek out, I would say. Biggest winners of the weekend. It's got to be Nottingham Forest up there for sure. They win, as we have discussed, and those around them dropped points, I would say. Chelsea drops points. City drops points. Newcastle obviously didn't play this weekend. Brighton drops points. So as I was kind of alluding to last episode, was the Champions League race is pretty unpredictable at the moment, and I still think it very much is. But a 5-point lead over the rest is not bad, because they're 5 up on Chelsea, 6 up on City, and then 7 up on the next few. So yeah, I would say that this is a very good weekend and result for Nottingham Forest. Like, I would dare to say potentially the perfect weekend that they could have asked for, really. They won, those around them dropped, and they're kind of looking not too bad in that third spot, where last week I was saying, I'm a bit concerned for them. Now looking at them, like it's not over yet. Like you could still probably slip up from here, but you're like, destiny is in your hands at this moment. So yeah, they have to be up in my winners of the weekend. Another winner, Arsenal. I mean, sadly, they beat Chelsea. Is anyone surprised? No, not at all, really. But Arsenal, whilst I really don't think there is much of a title race anymore, in the off chance that Liverpool do slip up from here, yeah, these games, these points that you accumulate do mean something, I would say. You could just go out there and not win. I mean, it would have been pretty hard to not win against that Chelsea side. But you could go out there, mail it in, draw or lose, and not get the win, and then look back on it and go, if we picked up points here, maybe our season would have been different. And I'm not saying that they're going to go on and win the league title from here, but I'm just saying that they at least keep some semblance of hope alive, no matter how small it really is. And I'm also really trying to stretch here for the winners of the weekend. Another winner has to be Wolves, who I think technically, mathematically, have not guaranteed their safety. I think have guaranteed their safety. They beat Southampton. No surprise there. But Leicester and Ipswich both lost this weekend, meaning that Wolves are now 9 points up on both of them with a far better goal difference than either one of them. So yes, I would say, like I said, not mathematically, but in the grand scheme of things, I think that they are safe and have no worries of going down now. But And that can change, I guess. But yeah, no, I think that this is pretty much over. Those teams are pretty much relegated, and Wolves live to fight another day, I would say. And then finally, another winner who did not play in the Premier League this weekend, but did play English football this weekend, has to be Newcastle. I know I don't cover Carabao Cup, but it feels like a pretty big moment within the league, even though it technically wasn't in the league, but you know what I mean. Yeah, they win their first trophy in 70 years over Liverpool in the Carabao Cup final. That is massive for the club. That is massive for those fans. You saw what it meant to those fans. I've seen videos, pictures, everything over the last 24-ish hours of fans celebrating, and you can tell just how much they wanted it. And you know what? Fair play to them. These are why these cup competitions can be so fun and can be so special. You can get moments like that. It's, I believe, Eddie Howe's first major trophy in the game. I know he's won promotions and whatnot, and I believe league titles down in the second, third tiers. But I mean, like top flight, I think that this is his first trophy. I would say this is his first one. I'll lay it out. I'll lay it all out there. I think that this is his first one. But yeah, no. So credit to Newcastle. That is very massive. So I'll give him a winners of the weekend shout out here, which is, I would argue, a bigger deal than winning the actual Carabao Cup. You got the Maple Footy winner of the weekend shout out. So Carabao Cup winner of the weekend, basically the same thing, I'd say. Biggest underwhelmers, let's get it out the way. Let's say Chelsea. They were terrible. They don't look good, and they look pretty clueless. I mean, you're playing Reece James in midfield, Wesley Fofana at center back, and then having Dewsbury Hall and Lavia on the bench, and then bringing them on, but putting Dewsbury Hall on the left wing. It was a mess. You have Nkunku playing on the wing when he really should be more central. You have Neto playing central when he should be on the wing. You have Sancho just kind of, you got him on the sideline. It's a mess. I mean, yeah, they don't look good at all at the moment. I think the thing that bothered me most about this result is that I saw it coming, and two, was relatively calm about it because I hate losing to Arsenal, as I think most Chelsea fans do. But I watched the game and I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, what more did I really expect here? The players don't really look bothered, and that does not apply to Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, Marc Cucurella, and Reece James. I think even if they didn't play great, they at least looked like they had something about them. They wanted to be there, whereas the rest of them just didn't look like they cared. And another quick aside, Wesley Fofana has been getting racially abused on Instagram after his performance. Please, what are we doing? Is this 2025? Like, I really don't understand what goes through people's heads to do this, but if in the off chance you are one of those people that is racially abusing him and listening to this podcast, take a good look at yourself in the mirror and really reevaluate what you're doing. At the end of the day, it's a game. Yes, we all love it. It's amazing. But there is no reason, no excuse, no justification to be racially abusing someone over a performance. Like, really, we're still doing this? It's, I feel for Wesley Fofana, obviously, and I just can't believe that people still have to deal with that. Like, it's 2025. Like, please, let's stop this. But okay, we'll move into some more underwhelmers. Now I have to put Bournemouth in here. Just crunch time of the season. You cannot be affording to drop points at this moment in the season, especially when you go 1-0 up early on. I do know it was through an own goal, but then Johan Wissa and Brian Mbeumo, who both, by the way, are having great seasons, link up to get a goal, and then Christian Norgard scores in the 71st. Shout out Daniel Jebison, got on for the last 5 minutes of this one. But yeah, when they are chasing Europe, and I would say deserve to be in Europe next season, they've been very fun to watch, have had a very good season, have had some standout players. I'd say that they deserve to be there, but just because you deserve it doesn't mean you're going to get it, and you can't drop points here, especially against Brentford, who have been difficult to beat. They're another one of those teams that you could see making potentially like a Conference League push. I know that that's not really the goal for many teams of, we got Conference League, but really, realistically, a team that you could genuinely see finishing in that 8th position, 7th, 8th kind of thing. So yeah, I would say that has to be extremely underwhelming for Bournemouth, but just because of how inconsistent that European chasing bunch have been, they're still very much in this, just because no one can predict any of these guys, where any of these teams are going to fall. So, yeah. Let's get a little bit more positive. Let's talk performance of the weekend. So definitely going to look at a good few Forest players here, mainly Anthony Elanga. Has kicked on brilliantly this season. This is his second season at Forest after joining United. He has been, I think, very good. This has done wonders for his career. He looks revitalized, he looks rejuvenated, and he looks like a proper winger. And 2 goals here. Technically, you could say are the difference makers, because if he doesn't score 2, Nottingham Forest draws here. But yeah, he had a very good showing here. Another one, of course, Morgan Gibbs-White. Anything positive that's going through Nottingham Forest has gone through Morgan Gibbs-White. He has had a brilliant season, I would say. Yeah, he has looked quite good in the center of the park in an attacking role, obviously. And I just want to shout out their back line, just all of them. Ola Aina, who, by the way, has probably been one of the best right backs in the league this season, quietly going about his business, but has been, I'd say, quite good. Nico Williams on the left, and then Minka Lenkovic and Morial have all been tremendous this season so far. So just wanted to give them a quick shout out as we were talking about Forest and a good few other players being in the performance of the weekend. Moving over to Wolves now in I'd say a must-win game over a relegation rival, Southampton. Of course, we can all say what we want about Southampton. But yeah, this was a must-win game for them. And who steps up for them? Jørgen Larsson grabs a brace, and they, of course, win. Jørgen Larsson, who has had a hot and cold season, of course, having 9 goals at this moment in time. But yeah, I'd say has had a pretty stop-start season. Hasn't, obviously, 9 goals, pretty good, but also some big missed chances here and there, so had to turn up today, and he does, especially in the absence of Cunha. You need someone to step up, and thankfully they have someone step up, and it is Larsson. So yeah, have to put him in the performance of the weekend. And then a little bit different one here, just straight up Fulham substitutions. They won them this game against Tottenham. Tottenham was on top of it for really most of the game, just could not put away their chances. Tell was creating, a lot of chances. Solanke was fluffing his lines a good few times. But yeah, Tell, if say Tottenham had probably won, I'd probably be putting Tell in this in the performances of the weekend. But yeah, Muniz for Fulham comes off the bench. He scores. Great little play there. And then Ryan Sessegnon, only being on a minute, by the way, after coming on, he scores against his former club, Tottenham. These are the 2 clubs that Ryan Sessegnon has made his name at, of course. Fulham in that year in the Championship where he just destroyed it. And then, of course, got that move to Tottenham. Was pretty stop-start for him, and then now he's back at Fulham. But yeah, doesn't celebrate as well. I do rate that. Doesn't celebrate. I don't know who did it, but the guy that leapfrogged Ryan Sessegnon, kind of crazy. That was hilarious. Ryan Sessegnon was straight up standing straight, and dude leapfrogged him. I don't know who it was, but yes, if you see his goal, watch the celebration. It's very funny to see this guy leapfrog Ryan Sessegnon. But yeah, so those would be my performances of the weekend. Now let's go into moment of the weekend. We're going to quickly mention it. Ryan Sessegnon only being on like a minute with really his first involvement of the game, scores, and it's a very nice goal coming in cold off the bench to do that. It was very nicely done, nicely taken, and then that leapfrog over him, I think it takes the cake for me. It was brilliant, and that's the kind of stuff I need in my football. Watching some guy leapfrog another guy. I need that. I need it. Another great moment was when Jake O'Brien scored for Everton in the 91st minute against West Ham United to extend Everton's Yes, Everton's unbeaten run under David Moyes. I thought it was, that's the type of stuff we all love. A late winner / equalizer, what have you, that gets you off your couch, get you probably, if you're an Everton fan, running around the room going crazy. If you're a West Ham fan, probably hiding your eyes in horror. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff we watch the game for, so has to be in here. And finally, we'll once again mention Newcastle, just the moment of them winning the Carabao Cup after 70 years. That's a massive moment, and like I said, I know I don't cover the Carabao Cup and don't really talk about it all that much, but that's such a massive moment. It's great for the club, so have to mention that too. So move into the relegation zone, and what more is there? Anything new to report on? No, there is not. West Ham still rooted to the bottom of the table, still stuck on 9 points, negative 49 goal difference. Just above them, Leicester, 17 points, and then above them on goal difference is Ipswich. Those three are going down. It's like I've said, it's not mathematically done, but let's be honest, it's done. I don't see either of these teams making up 9 points on Wolves, and then that also indicates that Wolves would not gain any more points, I would say. So yeah, I think that Wolves are pretty safe, and the other three are down. So that makes the relegation battle pretty quick of a recap and pretty done and dusted. Europe, though, this is a lot. Yeah, so you got Bournemouth in 10th on 44 points. Above them, Aston Villa on 45, Fulham on 45, Brighton on 47, Newcastle on 47, City on 48 in 5th, and then Chelsea on 49 in 4th, and then just above Chelsea, well, not just above Chelsea, well above Chelsea at the moment, Nottingham Forest, 5 points up on Chelsea. So, yeah, your guess is as good as mine as to who's going to end where. It beats me, I've been backing Chelsea out of just pure loyalty. Do I think that they have the minerals to do so? Probably not. But, have to back them. And with a potential 5th spot for the Champions League, for the Premier League this year, you could still see, say, City, Chelsea, Forest, Arsenal, Liverpool, all in Champions League next year if there is a 5th spot. If not, then one of them is missing out on Champions League, obviously. So, yeah, it's a crunch here because, as I've said, all these teams have been, whilst their highs have been very high this season, their lows have been lows. With Chelsea and City, I think it's more documented because you expect them to be a lot better than what they've shown this year. But then even like teams like Bournemouth, Villa, and Fulham, Brighton, while we have praised them to the ends of the earth, and rightfully so, they have been phenomenal this season. Their lows aren't as well documented because we don't expect them to be in these positions anyways. So the fact that they're doing so great, but then also have had some big hiccups here and there, we don't document the big hiccups because it's well, yeah, obviously they slipped up. Whereas with a Chelsea and City, it's how are you slipping up here? You shouldn't be slipping up. With a Bournemouth, you're playing so well, and then you slip up, and it's oh yeah, it was expected. So that's why I say it's been inconsistent, but some teams I've been easier on. Not even easier, just enjoyed more, like a Bournemouth compared to a Chelsea. Whereas Chelsea look at and you go, well, yeah, Chelsea's in 4th and Bournemouth's in 10th, But really, I think context, expectation, grand scheme of things, Bournemouth have been great this season, whereas Chelsea have been mediocre, and that just plays into the expectations and whatnot of what I've had going into this season and all that fun stuff. I hope that made sense and that wasn't just a load of gibberish. I hope that it makes sense in my head, so I hope that made sense here. But yeah, in short, I don't know where any of these teams are finishing. The only team not named Liverpool that I think is guaranteed for Champions League next year is Arsenal. I just don't really see them not getting it. It would take a lot. Just to drop into 5th, they'd have 10-point difference, I think Forest are in a very good spot, and it is in their own hands, but you could genuinely see them slipping up. Liverpool, they're playing Champions League next year. I don't know if it's mathematically confirmed. It might be. I have no idea. But regardless, they're playing Champions League next year. And then, you got Chelsea, City, Newcastle, Brighton, Fulham, Villa, Bournemouth, that you all just go, maybe. So we'll see. I'll be very interested to see what the table looks like on the last day of the season, and I think it could be very fun. But yeah, looking at the title race, I mean, Arsenal, of course, are still like they're mentioned, but we're not really expecting something to happen here. It will take a very big bottle from Liverpool on this one, even though Liverpool have hit a slump this week, not a good week for Liverpool, getting knocked out the Champions League and then losing in the Carabao Cup final. I mean, really, if you want to take a positive from it, I guess they only have the league to focus on. And yeah, I just really don't think that they're, regardless of if they hit poor form or not, I'll be very surprised not to see them see this out. If they don't see it out, it is nothing but an absolute failure, I would say. But I really don't think that we're going to be having those conversations come the end of the season. I think that the title is almost theirs. I don't know how many points they need now to clinch it. I know a week or two ago it was 21 points. I don't know what it is at this moment in time for them to officially clinch it. But yeah, I mean, Arsenal, whilst they did beat Chelsea, have been pretty inconsistent form at the last few games. And like I said, Arsenal's really their only threat at this moment in time. So yeah, I really do think, despite them not playing this weekend, Liverpool are sitting pretty in first still, and Arsenal are closest to them, and they're 12 points off of it. I mean, anything can happen, but yeah, I'll be very surprised. That's just me, though. So yeah, that'll kind of wrap up this edition of the Maple Footy Podcast. Not the most inspiring weekend, I would say. I mean, the only thing I would say to really still be watching out for is the top four race. Relegation feels done. League feels pretty much done, but you could maybe see a slip up, maybe. But yeah, I mean, it really feels like it's just a European race that's kind of keeping things a little bit interesting going into these last 8 weeks here after the international break. Speaking of the international break, we'll just remind you we will be covering Canada's semifinal against Mexico. Then, if brackets, I'm pretty sure there is a third place game, we will be covering that too. If Canada loses, if Canada wins, we will be covering the final. And keep an eye out for that interview that is dropping on Thursday. Very excited to share that one with you. And yeah, outside of that, follow all the channels that I promote in the intro, Maple Footy Pod, Samlo44. Follow all those for any news and updates on said podcast episodes that I will be dropping in the next week and a half-ish. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. I do very much appreciate it. And yeah, until next time. Cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates. Remember to support Canadian football, be kind, and until next time, live, laugh, little.